said he was going to be kind of mute today. His daughter's
He's sick. Yeah.
Everyone besides Tom and his daughter are doing well. Constant, do you have any anything you're wanting help with?
Yes, I just dropped it in the chat, but I can talk you through it if you like. It's I don't want you to. I just need some guidelines. I've developed a simple GUI that uses that's based on the Google search that you provide that allows you to put in a phrase and go out to Google. But this one, I've used it to present a list of scripts that I've developed to let me execute a particular one of my choices, and it seems to work fine. Except sometimes it takes 3 attempts to get it to fire. Does that make sense?
I mean, partially. Just I was searching around. I don't see anything in the chat, so that was my first confusion.
Okay, maybe
was it Zoom chat or YouTube? I don't see it either.
Zoom
but
chat. Zoom chat.
Did you maybe send it to one person instead of everybody?
You know, I sent it to everybody, but maybe I'd have to hit enter.
It helps.
That helps.
It helps. Yeah.
Oh, we see it now.
Okay, look, can you share your screen and we'll take a look? And this is a great example of like why we're here, right? It's not something crazy complex, but it's definitely something we can take a look at.
Okay, let's see. I've got lots of choices, so I do screen 1, I guess. Share. Do you see my screen 1?
Yeah. Oh well, I see something. I see Notepad and a bunch of scripts in Explorer.
Okay, right. So let me move my application. Well, I can. I'll just go ahead and fire the GUI up, so it's on the wrong screen. So it looks like this. This is my simplified version of it. And I hit execute. And unfortunately, I shared the wrong screen. Let me.
Yeah, no worries. Stop sharing and share the other one so everything's on the.
Right. Technically challenged here. Let's see, I've got to find the Zoom screen and find the options on it. I've got it on there, but I can't find how to turn sharing off.
You know what? I'll share my screen. It'll okay. And now you can
try it again. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Sometimes it can be hard to find the stop sharing thing. I understand.
Yeah. We always complain about that with Zoom. As soon as you start, sharing your screen, that button kind of like disappears. Yeah.
It was weird. I was just looking at the YouTube version, the stream, and I saw my Zoom toolbar, which I'm like, well, people can't see that. But then I realized, no, because I'm streaming from my desktop, you guys can see that.
Yeah. Oh.
So here, I'm going to execute it. And that worked fine.
Of course
Except-
it did. Yeah.
That's how it usually goes.
And this, I have my script is a very boiled down version of it with only one choice in it that I wish I just built for you guys this morning, and naturally it doesn't fail. But it's
Well,
like taking a car into the
but
shop.
honestly, it might be that very thing. Now that you've pulled it out, it might be interacting with the other stuff that that was in the other script, and that's why it doesn't fail, right?
Okay.
Which is a good part of the testing, which we say is, hey, do your best to isolate what you're doing. If it still breaks, right, like then, okay, we got to check it out. But right now, to me, as long as it always works, you've identified maybe there's something going on between this and the other stuff it's around.
Right. Okay. So I could just start adding in the other pieces and see which one of them breaks it.
And what I would do is now, if it was Isaias or Jean, because both of them are great with using the debug functionality, they would take a different approach. But throw in some stupid message boxes like before it gets to here, and in a couple other places with the specific name of like the line number or the script you're in, and that way you can tell like, oh, it got to here, it got to here. Wait, why didn't it get to this one, or why did it take so long to get to that one? Right. It helps you understand where the problem is.
Well, that's I don't know if you saw it fire, but the very first statement, if it runs the script, the very first statement is a message box.
Yep.
So I know it's not getting to that. It's not firing that. So
Right.
I guess one of my questions is run the correct command to execute a script?
Sorry, was that a question? I didn't understand.
Okay, let me bring up the script. You are seeing me, aren't you? Am I sharing my screen?
Yes, you do.
Yes. Yep. Sorry. It was on the same screen as the other stuff I was doing. But yeah.
Oops. So I guess my question is this line right here. Is this the appropriate command to use for running a script? Or can I just name the script?
Well, that's a good command for running any
Okay.
file, right? So
Yeah.
now that one is actually conditional to that if statement on 29. So probably if that variable is not set, that script is not going to run.
Right, and that's it's set via the checkbox.
Okay.
So I know that it at least sometimes it.
Oh, hold on. Quick question. That checkbox, are you saving the information of that checkbox somewhere and then loading it? Because when you create the GUI is always in line 14, I see that it's checked off. So it's always off when you start the script. Let me try to, so this part here where it says checked off, maybe you should save the information somewhere. And when the script runs, it should read whether it was checked off or on at the beginning. And then the next time that the script runs, if it was checked on, it would always be on, because probably what is going on is that as it is always off, this is never executing at the first time, at least.
But he is making it on when he executed. He checked the box. So on line 26, GUI submit will save the value from the form. So it should be available on line 29. But he needs to check the box each time. What you suggest is IS would save this value for future use, which could be good.
I'm not really sure. So my point is, like, I'm not really sure if the fact that this is negative at the beginning of the script is the reason why it's not loading.
But because
it is a label. Yeah, it is a label. So he's calling it when he's pressing the button, though.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So if I bring up the script, that's interesting. Normally I have a bunch of these, and I pick the one that I want to run, and then click execute. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Maybe what could be missing, it depends if your script depends on in what folder it is running. The run command that you have on line 30, you could add a parameter after the path, so comma, and then the folder where the script is running. So
directory.
Yeah.
Well, I thought I took care of that with line 6, include with the include statement.
I can tell you this from and when I use QAP, like when I go to launch OBS needs you to give it that parameter of the folder it's going to be launching in for it to work properly. And so I would just, consider doing what John is suggesting is.
So after the run command, then I just put in
comma, space, and the path of the directory where the script is running. Yeah.
And I don't recall, do you put a backslash in there at the end of that or not?
Not sure.
Okay, yeah.
I don't think
that's all right.
I don't have to.
Yeah, I don't think it's required.
Play with it until it.
So it could make a difference. It depends on the content of the script. If the script relies to some resources being in that folder, if you don't mention in what is the working directory, this is the name of this parameter, it could not find what it needs to run properly.
Well, and more important, not more importantly, but relevant is this script is launching other programs, right? If that program wasn't in the same folder, which I understand what you're saying is this one is, it's the same path, right? So your lineup above is, but if it was in a different folder, that's where you'd want to make sure that you have this, right? To help it understand that.
So,
okay.
Yeah.
A basic question is, and I'm new to the language, so how do I put a statement in here that says that I've reached this and I'm getting ready to run? So I want to, if it's checked, I want to do more than just run. I want to put a message box right here.
Sure. That's very
so
simple.
that I can, okay.
Yeah. What I would do, I would put a curly brace where you are, the opening, and then go down several lines. Or you can put the message box there if you want it before it runs. That's where you put it. Yes. And then just make sure you close that.
And then another one down here.
Right. And what I often do, and maybe Azace or Jean will chime in here, but whenever I have an if, I put the parens around whatever it is, just because it helps me remember this is an expression. Because otherwise, sometimes you need them. Sometimes it acts weird when you don't have them.
I would actually, so it is not to remember that it is an expression, is to force an expression in there. And that way you always know what is going on.
Yeah, it's a good practice.
Because, yeah, it is a good practice in version 1, because that in here you have the two things, like you have expressions and also you have like literal text. So sometimes this, if you don't put it, if you're doing certain things, it would actually not work as you are expecting, and it is just because it is not an expression. So it is a good practice to always force an expression there to make sure that you get, what you're supposed to be.
And Costin, before you run this, I forgot to tell you to put double quotes between the parameter that you added. Yeah, because there are spaces in it, so it needs to be encapsulated or enclosed.
Yep.
A programmer came up with that encapsulated term.
You know, he was a programmer, right?
So, and the
Couldn't be
on line
anybody else.
29, the military begin, that's what we're talking about. Put the parens around military begin. So opening and closing.
Oh, here?
Not the if, just the military begin.
Yeah, and close that into parentheses.
Why is that?
Well,
Parentheses,
actually, it
yes.
shows you right. You moved off it, but when you first typed that one, did you see this IntelliSense come up and say expression? Right, it was saying, "Hey, you're starting an expression," and that's what Isaiah was explaining. Is it's
Oh,
really good to force AutoHotkey to say this is an expression. It's not some regular command or something, right? To evaluate it.
okay.
And that's where this is where it gets a little tricky. Is like, hey, that might work without it at times, but sometimes, especially when you're comparing it to something, it doesn't. But then it's not clear of like why it doesn't work. And so I always put after an if, I always put those.
It didn't show the message box. Did you see that?
Yeah,
So
Could you run it again, please?
and what I would consider doing is in line 28, just to be sure, right? Put a message box showing the value of military begin.
But you will have to press execute before you see it. If you don't press execute, you won't see it.
which is okay, at least for what he needs, right?
And what's the variable message box?
So just put the percent signs, just put 2% signs and the variable name in between that.
The variable name is military begin.
Right, so that's the one that you just copy it.
No pressure.
Oh,
It needs to move over one character. Move the percent on the left, the 2%. Then you surround military begin.
Like that?
No. So
Oh, you want two more here, right?
just one on each side.
Oh,
yeah, it has to be surrounded by
Oh.
them. Yeah.
okay. I heard two, but I thought.
Yeah, it's true, like surrounding it. I'm sorry. So
Yes,
my
He knows the military doesn't want to be surrounded. So
I wants to make sure that it's yeah.
and now
Okay.
this is just, again, it's just to help us say, hey, is there a one there? Right? Like there should be a one when you've checked that box.
Okay.
And this is just good old, learning how to troubleshoot. What was it with you or was it, no, it's Jackie. We did a podcast the other day. And the quote was, programming is debugging. Like, I mean, it's
most of the time that you're going to spend is going to be debugging, not actually creating the code.
Ooh. And on line 5, I see you have single instance, but you don't have force, comma force.
Yep.
Which is
It's an interesting language to learn. I do have some computer background. I was a mainframe systems programmer for 1,000 years.
right.
But it's syntax and knowing what the commands are.
Yeah, that actually comes with experience. After a little while, you're going to know all of them, or well, a very big part, very chunk of it.
Yeah, and it's a use it or lose it thing as well.
Yep, it is. Every time I kind of like have a little bit of time that I haven't been coding, I'm like a noob again. Like, oh, how do I do this again? It happens.
And in sight, I think F5, if you care, is a hotkey that'll launch the script for you as well, which is convenient. So did you?
So
you gotta
you need to click execute to see the message box.
right. So go ahead. Yep. No,
No.
not cancel.
Not cancel.
Are you
Execute.
doing something else? Yeah. There we go. And there's the one. And now
Yeah.
it should. There we go. There's your message box, and then it should run.
Yeah. So if that message box does not contain that one, then you know that something happened.
Right. Yeah. So we could disable that now for geared to, right, or whatever. As Isaiah knows, when we're troubleshooting stuff, I like to start at the simplest, most obvious things, because often those are the things that you're like, oh, I didn't realize, this wasn't working.
That's right. And actually, it's always good practice to go, step by step and challenge your assumptions, because we assume a lot of things without even noticing. You assume many things, and you don't even notice that you're assuming that. So
you know what?
Yeah.
I would even add on to that as I think there's a direct correlation between the length of time you're taking to solve a problem and the likelihood that it's based on a simple assumption, right? Like the longer it takes you to debug, it's because it was a really simple assumption.
Right, that you're not actually taking into consideration, but you should have. Like a lot of times, like for example, we created a little script recently, and the guy was gonna use it on a specific website. So without even thinking, and this is the thing, we assume stuff. Like I just assumed that the page was going to be open. Like he's going to use it on that website, right? So the page is going to be open. But what happens is that as soon as he tried the script, he opened my script first, but didn't have the page open. So my script failed right there. So, and that's the thing. There's a lot of things that we tend to assume without even paying attention to it. And again, when you're debugging, the first things that you have to do is question what your assumptions are. Well, I assume that he's going to be doing this and this and that. Or in this case, I assume that that variable has a value all the time. Maybe it happens that sometimes it doesn't have a value, and then you have to figure out why it doesn't have a value. That's all. So as of now, it seems like, so right now the script is working as you were expecting it to.
Yeah, are we good, Constant?
Your mic is off, Constant.
Oh, maybe that's what's going on, because I
was thinking earlier, maybe he hit a hotkey accidentally or whatever.
Very likely. Yeah.
Yeah, I
His
forgot.
microphone is off, right? Maybe he should. Yeah, there we go.
Okay. Yes, that is working. And what I'll do now is just go back and go to the other script. This one's just a subset of that script, and go in and put in debugging statements and track it down. So you've given me a lot of good tips, and I'll work on it for the rest of the week. And if I have a problem, I'll talk to you about it next week.
Awesome.
So much for your time.
It's you bet. It's great to see, like you said, people, at different stages and learning the stuff. It's awesome. Keep at it.
Well, I've learned a lot from using both the Sean's and your tools. So that's the way,
Yeah, thanks.
I use Jean's tool dozens and dozens, maybe it's at least 100 or more times a day. I mean, it's and it just saves me the trouble of writing a lot of code of like, why would I go do this from scratch when it's so easy to just pop it in there. Now, while we're here, Isaias, let's show them. Let's see. I need to share this screen because that's where it's going to probably pop up. I'd like you to work on make a change. I just realized. So yesterday I told him, and this is one, Jean. I wish QAP could do this. This is outside its focus, right, is I have, what you guys know, like a lot of downloads and whatnot, right, and pretty links where I have links that will drive them to usually pages on the Automator, but not always, right? Sometimes they're in other places. And I'll be in a YouTube, video, someone will ask for hey, where's this script? And I wanted a simple tool that could, now here, this is QAP, and here under the Automator, I have like links to popular posts, to links to podcasts, to different pages on the Automator, even to my playlists and channels. I've added all these manually, right? Because of course, how would John, have a tool that would go into WordPress or YouTube or whatever to generate this, right? That makes sense. But this Pretty Links tool, it's a WordPress plugin. And what I was like, hey, Isaiah and I have a way where we're using MySQL to connect to my WordPress instance and do other stuff. And I said, hey, what I'd love is to where I can hit a hotkey, be able to type a little bit and have it show me, what the hotkeys are, and I can either run it or copy it to clipboard so I can respond to people very quickly. What I just realized, is it would be great is let's set this where the edit field is the default, selected already, because I'm having to click in here to type.
Yeah.
Why don't you, just because I'm sharing my screen already, and you want to let me give you control.
Yeah, so basically, we just have to use the GUI control focus. This GUI set control focus. It is just a command. Let me just move this around a little bit. And what you're gonna do is, after probably when we show the GUI, it could be at any point, but or when the GUI is created, or GUI control. And what we want to do is focus here. That's the one that we want to do. And then we're going to use the control IID, which, depending on I actually make it a way for me to kind of like organize stuff. I have my GUI in one file where I could just, the only thing, I do not see the subfolders here, but it would be under the GUI subfolder, which makes it a little bit easier for me to kind of like know where I am at. But the filter here, I do not have a, let me see, hold on, is an edit control, this one here. I just need the guy here. And now we could just focus on it. That's it. That should be all. So if you run the script, whenever you show it, it should actually go ahead and focus that particular control right away.
And I saw it. Oh.
Can you type?
Oh, there it is.
No, I didn't click, but were you able to type right away? It should.
Yeah, well, let's try it again.
Right.
Apps P. Yeah, there we go.
So you should be able to right away type in there. So the GUI control focus command is really helpful to just set the focus to 1. The reason why I didn't use the default value for it is because I already have a button set as the default. So the button for search, the button for search, I set it up as default so that you could type and hit enter. When you hit enter, it would just go ahead and perform the search right away. So as I cannot have like 2 controls as the default, and actually this default option only works in buttons, doesn't work for an edit control or something. So then the GUI focus, the GUI control focus is the way to go. And I just, quick thing, for this usually to work correctly, the GUI must be shown already. You cannot do it before the GUI is shown. So because this command just sends a message to the GUI. So if the GUI is not there, it's not going to receive the message for it. So
cool. Awesome. Yeah, this is one of those things. It's a simple tool that is going to allow me to, because it goes and dynamically gets all the new stuff, everything I've created, right? And that was the thing of like, I could manually go and build this list into QAP, but then it would be a static thing I'd have to keep maintained. And
synchronizing.
I had, what was it for? Yeah, I had like 400 of them already. And I'm like, this would, and I add them pretty frequently.
Yeah.
Did anybody else have any other questions? Anything they're working on? Oh, Jean, actually, you had an update, right, for QAC?
Yes, some addition to quick access clipboard. I added the sort command so that you can sort the content of the clipboard or the content of the clipboard editor, depending where you are. Want me to show it? We don't have other questions on AutoHotkey.
Oh, I didn't see it. Tom posted into, and I'm curious, Tom, was that actually from you or from one of your people on your channel? But they had a question of, they made a GUI that's sent to the Android tablet and in turn, well, to a Steam Deck, but he can't get it to open the correct coordinates. I will get the screen, but it won't adjust. Oh, it's from me. Okay. Yeah, let's that's going to be a tricky, I mean, to me, a little tricky. How are you connecting to the tablet? Are you just
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, hey Tom.
Yeah, it's called Space Deck Driver.
Okay, all right. So
So it turns my Android tablet into like a third monitor.
Sure.
So if I try to open the GUI on screen 1 or 2, well, screen 1 works perfect. But if I do it on screen 2 or 3, it never gets it exactly full screen. It'll pop up maybe like an inch from the top left corner. I mean, I can move it every time, but it'd be nice to just open.
Do Isaias or John, either you guys have an idea on this? I know Maestri, I can ask him and he'll answer it in a second, I'll bet you.
Yeah, and the other thing too is, I don't know if this is an issue, but every screen's a different size. You know, tablet obviously is pretty small versus my 42-inch. Right. And one of my monitors is in portrait mode. So I don't know if that's somehow screwing up the coordinates.
I wouldn't think so. But you should, I know from a little bit, I used to have some scripts that I had a toggle where I could click and it would send my script to the GUI to the other monitor. And so we did have some stuff where I looked at, there were different variables for each monitor. And I'm pretty sure you can get the dimensions of each monitor, right? Yep. Does that sound right? Yeah.
Yes, so that's correct.
We should be able to do that.
I've never do something like that before.
Is that something, Mosaic, you can actually show? Or
actually, the thing is, let me double check on something, because I do understand. Here we go. We have yeah. So the sysget command is the one that I would point you to. So the sysget command is it puts into a variable certain values. And for example, if you want to know how many monitors a computer has, you can get monitor count, which gives you here in the output bar how many there are. It gives you the primary monitor, so usually the one that you're working with, but this one is the one that maybe is the one that you are looking for. It retrieves the bounding coordinates of the specified monitor. So if you want to send a window or do any specific tasks in another monitor, you say get the bounding coordinates of the second monitor and then move the window to those coordinates if you want to. So yeah, this is the command that I would actually point you to.
Yeah, I don't know if I've ever used this before.
I didn't know
what to Google.
Right. This is one of the most complicated things when you're learning, is to know what you're looking for. Yeah. So most of the times when you're trying to learn something, just pointing in the right direction is a huge help, because at least you have something to start with. Now, notice that here, what it's going to do, and this is what I usually do not like about AutoHotkey version 1, is that it will give you, you put an output variable here, MON2, like monitor 2. But when it comes back, it doesn't set the value to monitor 2. It sets it to 4 different variables, all starting with mon2. So mon2 left would give you the left coordinate, mon2 top would give you the top of it, and so on. So basically, you have to keep in mind that once you use the command, the variables that you're going to get is not what you put. Is that that's just kind of like the
It's not an object with methods.
It's not an object. It is just like 4 variables that start with that name that you just used. That's what it happened. So, so in any case, after you get that, like for example, the monitor 2 left, then you can move the window to that coordinate and it would be on the left side of the monitor. So I would start with this part here and you would be good to go.
Yeah, I'm gonna try it now. If it works.
I think as we did a video, if I remember right, like on the sort command, and that was, I think it had something like this where it automatically creates some of this other, and I'm like, I just don't read the documentation. So like, that would have been puzzled me forever.
Let me just show you something interesting. So I just ran the code. I just selected it, ran the code. I'm looking at my second monitor, right? Notice that the left here starts at 1920. The reason for that is because my first monitor, if you look at my first monitor left and top starts on 0, 0, right? And the right pixel, the right side of my monitor ends on 1920. So my second monitor for the X starts where the end of the first monitor is. So that's what is going on in there. And notice now that the end of it is at 2688. So basically those numbers, these 4 coordinates tell you exactly where the monitor probably is. So in any case, if you play around with this, I know that you want to move something, I could just win move, and I could use, whatever notepad, and I would just put the coordinates. I think the coordinates go first. So that would be to the left first, like this. If I do that, and the Y would be 0, I don't care, and then notepad. If I do that, this win move command would grab my notepad and put it totally on the left side of my monitor, my second monitor. That's what it should do, actually. So that's basically what you're looking for. And if you play a little bit around with that, you should be good to go.
And then Brian asked about doing a demo of radio buttons and checkboxes. Is this something you can just?
Yeah, sure. Let me just do that real quick. So we could just lib5 radio exam y+5. And this should give me 5 radio buttons, right? So let's add here. Okay, so just to kind of like explain what is going on, I'm going to do 5 buttons, or in this case, radio buttons. When I put XM in here, it's going to all put them on the margin. That actually makes them that they are always on the left side. If I didn't do that, they'll be added. If I have the XY here, like the Y position here, if I didn't put it, they will put them, oh, the buttons do that. But for other controls, they just put it to the side, to the right of it. So it puts them all to the right. But it seems to me that radio buttons behave a little bit differently. But if you want to force all the buttons to be on the margin, you just do that. And I usually try to be explicit. I just put XM+5 and it would just put them all in here. Now buttons usually are bundled together. So, and maybe that's the reason why they behave a little bit different than other controls, because after you put a group of radio buttons, they are all kind of in the same group. The reason that would allow you to kind of like select one of them only.
Otherwise it would suck.
Yeah. So usually if you want to add a second group of it, probably you just add another control in between, like let's say text. And I remember that there's a way for me to do a line. I will do it later, but I would just new. And now I make 5 more. Let's add second. Now here, if I press 1 down here, it will not modify the previous group, because and this 5 down here belong to the same group, and these 5 up here belong to the same group. So basically, and that's the thing, if you want to have multiple groups of radio buttons as they're grouped together, they must be either separated by another control, or I think there is another option for me to kind of like separate them into groups.
You can on the first one of the new group, you add the option group, but only on the first one, so not on each one as as your loop would do.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
the way you do it is good. You could put an empty text. You don't need to put new on line 6, so you would just not see this control anyway.
Right, exactly. In that case, but if I don't want it, so let's just do that. I could just force an expression here. This part is exactly the same. And I would put here, if a index equals 1, right? So if a index equals 1, then I would put a group. If not, don't do anything. I could just do that. So let's move. Usually, I would always recommend using parentheses when you're dealing with ternaries to avoid very annoying stuff that happens with ternaries. So I just do that, and we could just remove this. And now I do have my group separated from the other one without any controls in between. So you can actually use the group command for that.
And just because we don't necessarily know Brian's level of expertise in any of the stuff, you're using the loop command just to simplify adding multiple buttons.
Yes, right? Yeah. I could just add 5 lines like this. Like I could just add 5 of them like this.
Changing them.
And 1, 2, 3, I could do that. But especially when you're adding the same thing over and over, and that's the beauty of programming, is that you can just go ahead and do a loop and just do that.
He also wanted checkboxes. So can you make one of those?
Right, of course. Now the checkboxes, so let's just go ahead and I don't need, so checkbox, sorry, the K goes here. Checkboxes cannot be grouped in the same sense. So this would be, now the checkboxes, they're individual. So each of them,
they have to be.
They must be individual, and they're usually used in the context of selecting certain options, like I want this, but I don't want that. So that's where they come in. So for that reason, as they're individual and you want to know the status of them, it is really recommended that each of them has their own variable. So always, whenever you're creating them, just assign a variable like checkbox. For the sake of the loop, I'm just going to use a index here. Right. But in general, in real code, I actually make each of them their own line, and each of them I make a meaningful variable. Like, for example, if it is for settings in this script, so for this one, show splash image, it would have a SSI variable for me, or it would have something that makes sense for me, like start with Windows, start Windows. So it would be checkbox that is named something very specific. But for the sake of the example, I'm just using checkbox for all of them. and the A index is just like a number, checkbox 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So now all of them have their own variable assigned to it. And what's the point of that? So let's go have a button. Yeah, so let's go ahead and have a button. Now the show here, I'm gonna assign a G label to it so that it performs an action. Now, when I do that, I would do a GUI submit. And I'm gonna make it no hide so that it doesn't go away at all. When I do that, all the variables that are here, if any variable that has been assigned, would have the value of that. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna tooltip or a message box. I can do a message box. In this case, there are 5 of them. So I'm gonna do CV1, CV2, 3, and so on. So let's just do that. And also, let's go ahead and take a look at the variables for the radio. So now for the radios, as they're grouped together, I think that only one of them needs to have the variable. So
right.
So right. So let me see something. The G label is there. Here. The radio, it receives one row. If only one button in the radio has a variable, that variable means the number of the currently selected button. So yeah, the reason why I had to double check is because this one works a little bit differently. If each of the radio buttons has its own variable, that will contain the information. But if only one of them has it, then it would have the number of the button that has been selected. And I'm going to show both examples just to make sure that it is kind of like clear. So as I already have this, let me just do this and radio button for them. For the X and Y, again, I want to force an expression because I'm going to be using a variable here. And let's do radio button, and then I'm going to use A index here. So let's review. I'm doing the loop. Each of the radio buttons has a variable called RB and the number of the radio button. And the same happens with the checkboxes. Now I created a button that when I click on it, it would submit the GUI. So all of the variables will get the values, the current values. And then I'm going to do 2 message boxes here. One for the radio buttons, one for the checkboxes, and that should be all. So when I run it, I have my things. Let's select button number 2. And for the checkboxes, I'm going to have number 3 and 4. So now for my radio buttons, now notice that the first message box has all of them. The second button has the code 1, right? And all the others are set to 0. For the checkboxes, I would have 2 of them selected, 0, 0, 1, 1, 0. So I hope that that is kind of like clear enough how they work.
Yeah, he's typing in the chat as there's I'm trying to think of how to summarize it because now I'm a little confused on what he was trying to
explain.
Yeah, at first he was saying he wanted to have a common statement that when filling out a text box in the checkbox has a common start. So John Doe calls in and I get his info, and the checkbox has troubleshoot, discuss, etc. And then he said, so text would come out troubleshoot blah 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 with John Doe. So you're apparently piping.
All right. So basically what he wants to do is kind of like text that he's going to display.
Let me finish real quickly. This is where I got I got confused. Was he said he said, well, then how with using a variable, how would I have the names be different? Which I'm like, I thought
Yeah,
name
the names are
same.
different. That's something else. Yeah.
But then it said, and then he said, like for the radio buttons, like selecting Mr., Mrs., Doctor, etc. So I'm like, okay, so maybe he's collecting the information from the person.
Right. And then so basically he has a GUI that he decides what it looks like. And then when he hits OK, he's gonna get a message kind of like kind of like built from that GUI that he, and depending on the option that he hits. Yeah. So yeah. So let's just do the following. I'm not gonna do the whole GUI, but let me get you this. Add radio, and that would be how do you call that? Well, I'll put it in a second. So Mr., Mrs., right? And that would be
Doctor, let's just say.
Yeah. So and I'm just gonna use one of them. Well, no, let's just do it like this. We're gonna use only one, and Doctor. Okay, so and that's the title is what it's called, right? Radio button title, the title of the person. Then we have their name, and then we have a few. We add checkbox. I always mix that one, and that would be
well,
let's put here like troubleshoot.
Yeah, fine.
And then I don't know, like call or something, right?
Sure.
Doesn't matter.
Right.
Now we have the button. We add button, and that would be.
Well, don't we need an edit field in there for the actual name? Because I think he wants to type them all.
But
together.
I think for the name, he will figure that one out. What I want to show is how to use the variables when he's actually calling it. But let me put an edit.
Yeah, I mean, it's a one line, right? So
yeah. So let's go ahead and do that. We add edit the name. So that's it. And I will make it, I don't know, like 100 pixels. And I will show you what I meant with the checkboxes and the radio buttons. Radio buttons were automatically vertical. I think there's a way for you to put it horizontal. But for the checkboxes, you will see what happens if I don't put anything. Troubleshoot call, and I need some variables for them. Checkbox, troubleshoot, and checkbox call.
If you're totally new to this, that's where the putting the V in front of the name of what it is, that's the kind of only like really gotcha, right? Is you put a V in front here to say this is the variable.
A variable,
later,
yes.
Use the V.
Yeah, so it is really confusing at the beginning. Yeah, I remember that too. The same with the G labels. Here I put a G to show that that's a G label, but down here I don't put anything on it. So then again, I have my GUI. Let's go ahead and look at it first. Let's take a look at it. Because I need a return statement here. And I need to show the GUI, by the way. So this is what I got, very ugly, but notice that, oh, so now it is actually putting them vertically. Before it was just putting them to the side, or maybe I thought that, I don't know. In any case, we do have our very ugly GUI. What we want to do is to get the name. So select if it is Mr. or Mrs., then troubleshoot and create a message. And that should create a message box that contains that information. So what I would do is that I would add them up. So I would say, I will make it with if statements so that it is kind of like clearer, right? So my message is going to start with the name of the person, which is this variable right here. And I'm going to put a space in there. Now the title. For the title, as there's 3 of them, I could just use a ternary operator here to select what I'm going to say. But let's use an if statement so that it is a little bit clearer. So I would say if the-title. Let's just do this. Equals 1. Then I would, to the message, append whatever that would be. So Mr., right? There are other ways of doing this. I'm just actually kind of like making it this way so that you understand what is going on. Right, exactly. Now, else if, that would be 2. Then I would just put here Mrs. And you get the idea. And F3. And that would be doctor. That's it. So now, depending on what was selected, I just append something to the message. And if I go ahead and do this, and actually it's the other way around. This first goes the title, right?
Right.
And I would put it here then. The name would be appended to it. So we're gonna go ahead and start with that, then put a space. Oh, well, they have it already. And the name. So I just append the name. We're gonna message box message. And depending on what I selected here, I should get Mr. Isaiah. So if I select something else, I should get something else. Now, error there, whenever you do the message here, this, as I'm appending to it, let's clear it first. There we go. So now if I have Isaias, right? I could just select doctor here and now it would say doctor. If I select the other one, it would say Mr. So as you can see, it depends on what I'm selecting here. And the same will happen with the checkboxes. So I would do, I have already the name, I have the message. Now let's go ahead and append the troubleshoot. So if
a little trickier since it can be both.
it can be both, right? So your message should be kind of like taking that into consideration. If trouble, let's go ahead and do this. First of all, let's check if both are set.
Right. That's what I was
So
thinking.
if the call and then we would do a message here. We're gonna append. And I would do it at the beginning. So let me see something. Do I? Yeah. We should call and we should call, and I'm gonna put the name now. So that's gonna be whatever I had at the beginning. And troubleshoot. Help him troubleshoot the computer, for example. Right now, if so, this is an else if because they exclude each other. Then in this case, we should contact and help him troubleshoot the computer. In this case, I'm saying contact because it could be an email or whatever. And the third one would be if it was call, right? We should call, and I do not need that part, right? So I just took care of the 3 situations, and this is an else if. These are the 3 situations that we could have, either both or one or the other. You want to say something?
No, other than just, I guess, I mean, technically it's possible neither are selected.
Right, that is true. So else, that would be the last one. I wouldn't do anything. So, and actually that's the cool thing about going the way I did, because if none of them are true, nothing is going to happen. So let's try it out. Let's see what happens if I don't select any of them. So I would say Isaiah.
If you like, I can give you the.
I don't select any of those. Yeah. So if I don't choose any of those 2, I would just get the name.
Yeah.
Now, if I select this one, we should contact him and help troubleshoot the computer. Now, if I select them both, we should call and help troubleshoot. And if I just have that, we should call Mr. Isaiah. So basically, again, the idea, just to kind of like simplify it, I show you some code, but let me simplify the concept is you have to save the information in variables, right? That's the first thing you have to do. And that you do it when you create the GUI. That's where the information is going to be saved. When you want to retrieve the information, you're going to use GUI submit. And now that you have the information for each of them, then you're going to use logic, if and else statements, usually, to do whatever you want with the information that you already got. Okay.
Hey, Isaiah, can you also just because it's simple, alternate the no hide to, you know, where it doesn't disappear? If you didn't want the
oh, so if I wanted, sorry, so right. I made it in a way that it didn't disappear, but I could also use it as a way that after I do it, it goes away, it shows me the message, and that's it. Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah,
or?
Right. Just because if you're new to it, you know, you don't realize that.
Yes.
A simple
right.
thing.
So if you use the GUI submit without anything else, like just like that, it will just get the variable information and just dismiss the GUI, and you will not see it until you show it again, if you have a hotkey or something for that.
So,
or in this case, as I was using it with no hide, so it stays there, I could reuse it over and over.
And this is just a great example. Earlier, Jean and I we got on and we were just chatting in general about doing stuff with what's easy to do, this and that, and how simple it is with AutoHotkey because you're connected to the Windows API, right? So this is, you know, this is all using the Windows GUIs, right? Someone has gone through and made it very simple to manipulate Windows GUIs, right? And that's why it's so clean and so easy. And yeah, that the Intro to GUIs course, Isaiah led that. I you know, helped with the structure and this and that. But yeah, he led the whole thing, and it's a great course to work through if you're new to GUIs. Very
good. So in general, at the end, after you created your message, you can
Isaiah,
just do whatever you want with it.
Send me that code. Yep. I'm going to send it to Brian. He's going to give me his email, and I'll send it to him and start spamming him.
No problem.
But yeah,
yeah, that's okay. But in general, here,
or do you have a way to push it to a paste bin type thing, and you can just link to it?
Yeah.
Okay, just do that and throw it in. I don't know if you have the.
You could create gists in here, if I remember.
Yeah, I'll have to give you. I have a script that does it with an API call. It's awesome.
Oh right, yeah. It has been a long time since the beginning when I coded my AutoHotkey toolkit. One of the things was exactly that, like to send code to a paste bin. I don't know if I assume that they do, but yeah, I can create one here. I forgot how to do that.
Yeah, they're in their own thing. I'll just
I think the plus in here. Yeah, there it is. Just paste the code. That would be a checkbox radio button example.
Well, I thought that was
checkboxes and radio buttons. There we go. And then I want to make it public. That's good. And now this link could be sent. And I could send it directly on Zoom, right?
Yeah, that's fine. I'll paste it over there. That way it looks like I know what I'm doing.
Oh, I'm sorry. So I just sent it on Zoom, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, I'm going to paste it in there. Just there you go. There you can just go grab it.
Yeah.
Okay,
there you go.
Jean, let's jump over. Jean, did you have some QAC updates?
Yeah, still working on the beta version. That's the third beta release that I'm working on. And the main
for those
addition,
that don't know what it is, can you just give a
Yeah.
really quick intro?
Yeah,
Thank you.
I'll share my screen first. So in fact, it's two windows. I'll show both. The other one is here. So it's two components. One is a rule manager here, where you can set up rules that will be applied each time you copy something to the clipboard. So for example, if you create a rule that will change the case of the content to uppercase here, if I copy something from anywhere, like, oops, I don't want to move it. I will just copy some content here, and I will make my windows here, this window always on top, so you can see it. This second window is an editor that shows first what is in the clipboard. So if I copy something to the clipboard, I hit Control-C, it will be, okay, my rule just timed out. I have a short timeout for my test. So what rule did I create? Oh no, and I forgot just to activate it first. So this is the rule that I just created. So I will activate it. I double click, or I click this arrow here. So this rule is now active. Let me move it. So now if I copy something here, it will be automatically converted to uppercase before it is sent, or at the same time it is sent to the clipboard. So that's the rule manager. And the second component, and there's a lot of type of rules. You can add rules to find and replace content in your clipboard, change case, convert the format to text, apply some AutoHotkey code to the content of the clipboard, add a prefix, suffix, select a substring. This one is quite powerful. So you can say that you want to keep in the clipboard only from a given position, or from the beginning of a given text, and to end the substring to number of characters, to some text. So it's very powerful. So that's the different type of rules. And the last one that I just add rule, is to sort. And sorting the content of the clipboard can be done. I'll show you an example where I will retrieve here. I will go to my editor. I will retrieve from my history. I'm using Ditto as my clipboard history. Oh yeah, I'll remove the always on top. It is always in the way. Okay. Okay, so this is here in my clipboard history, a list of countries. So I'm selecting it from my history, so it gets visible now in this editor, which is the clipboard editor. And you see all the countries of the world. I don't know if it's up to date, but I just copied it a few minutes ago. So you see all the countries, it's sorted alphabetically. So if I want to change the sorting to reverse, for example, so I will click Edit Clipboard. So it will change this window. Instead of being a window just to see what is the content of the clipboard, it changes it to an editor where you can change the content. And when you're done with the content, let's say I add some text here. When you're done with the content, you click Save to Clipboard, and now it gets in the clipboard ready to be pasted where you need to paste it. So what I just added in the recent days is the sort command here, which is available as a rule, as you can see it here, but it is also available interactively when you are in the editor. So let's use it in the editor. So I will sort and select reverse order. So it will sort all the content starting from Z normally to A, but you see here there's a letter which is a A. I don't know what is the name of the symbol that is on the top of A, like
those are considered
yeah, it's a Unicode character, kind of crown over the A. So this is considered to be higher than Z. But if we select another type of sorting, which is sorting considering regional settings, it will consider this as being an A, because Windows knows that this letter in my regional settings, that can be different from yours, is to be considered as an A. And now if I sort this name will be now among the A. This is much slower to sort, considering original settings. If you have a very, very long list, it could take 2 seconds instead of half a second, but it's a very efficient way to sort when you are a non-US citizen and use foreign languages that have these special characters. So the other ways of sorting are all related to the options available in AutoHotkey. So what I built, in fact, so if you select nothing, you click go, it will sort alphabetically without any special options, but you can sort reverse order, case sensitive considering the original setting as we've seen, numeric, so that 90 will be before 100, because if we just make a quick example here.
I think that actually solves also the 1 and 10 being together, and then 2 and 20, right?
Right.
So because it's so annoying. Yeah, 1, 10, 2, and 20.
Yeah. So
yeah,
here, for example, if I use the regular sort,
it would put 1 and 20 and 1, 2, 3 together.
Yes, that's not a numeric.
Yeah,
this is the alphabet. It is the alphabetical order of these characters. But if we want to consider them as numbers,
yes,
we select here numeric, and it will be sorted
1 to 10 exactly
by their values. So the clipboard, the command will consider the values. So all these options, and maybe just take a look at the last one that I didn't cover. Unique will sort and retain only one line if a line is present multiple times in your clipboard or in your editor, so it will make your list with unique values. From last backslash is convenient when you want to sort to considering only the file name, when you have a list of files and they are in various folders. So if you sort them by default, it will be sorted by the order of their folders and subfolders. But if you want to sort them by only the last part of the file name at the end, so after the last backslash, that's what you can use. Randomly is funny. It will just sort it in any order, different each time. So it can be good if you do a contest and you want to draw the winner. And finally, the last option is starting from a given position. So if it doesn't work with numbers necessarily, but if, let's say I will sort only starting at the second digit, second character. So these are empty. They are first 0, 0, 2, 9.
Yes.
So I didn't have to code all this. What I coded, in fact, is a GUI to be the front end to all the options that are available in AutoHotkey. So that's the sort command, where you have the CL for the locale, for the original settings. There's a few options I didn't cover that I will add it later. So for now it is sorting lines only, but there's a command here, an option that allows to sort, for example, at every comma, it will consider a different value to be sorted. So, so in the end, my code is, where is it? Am I in the right editor? Yeah. Not sure if it's, no, where is it? Anyway, the line, it's execute edit command, this one here. So if the type of the command is sort, all it has to do is to use the sort command and put here the list of options that you selected. So just as we've seen with Isaias earlier, depending on which checkbox are selected, I will build a string that will contain the letters that are required here by the sort command. So C to case sensitive, random for random sorting. So that was very easy to code from the execution side. What was more complex is not that complex, but to build this GUI,
which is just, that's awesome.
And the only thing that is special is when you select starting here, it will enable characters, the number of character where you want to start the sorting. Also, I put some exclusions. For example, if you use unique value, if you use random, these options, don't know if you see
can
well with the
use them.
screenshot, but they are grayed out, so they are not considered. So even if they are checked, if you select random, it will not consider the reverse order because it's not relevant when you select randomly. So that's the kind of little addition I've done to that.
Yeah. I mean, a couple of things I would still consider, John, and I'm not trying to add to your thing, is this is cool.
Oh, I want to add it. Beta release is there to receive suggestions and testing, of course, but feedback, yes.
The one that I actually use somewhat frequently is sorting on the length of the string.
Oh yeah.
How many characters wide comes up more than you would think.
Yeah, that's true. It's actually good.
And then I don't know how you implemented the from last backslash, but
I didn't implement it. It's AutoHotkey that is doing it.
That's a regular expression.
Yeah, that's no, that's simply this option. You put the backslash character in your options, and it will sort that way.
I was actually kind of referring
because that's
but I think
behind that there is a regular expression, but it's behind.
That's what I was going to say. Like when I mentioned regular expression, I thought what I meant is like the sort command is doing that. But if you do not want to use a backslash, probably you can sort by but now the position might change in different file names, right? So yeah.
I was gonna say like suggestions here. Yeah.
Delimiter, maybe would that be the one? So with a delimiter, you would be able to put your own delimiter.
Delimiter is good if you have a list, for example, that is comma delimited
or tab delimited, maybe.
Or tab delimited.
Right.
I don't know if you would have to. So you put D and then the character that is the delimiter.
Right.
So for example, here this list is delimited by lines, which is the default. So there's carriage return new line, carriage return new line. Oh no, there's a tab, so it's not a good example. But yeah.
But it seems to that you can kind of like merge them. Like you can do the new lines and also a T, maybe, or what? No.
No, only one
only
character.
One delimiter.
Yeah. Okay. What it says here is that if you use a given character, every character before will be considered in the sorting. So yeah, it's very specific situation, as they say. It's yeah. So, but yes, that's something that can be added. What I want to avoid is having something too busy here. So maybe first one thing that I consider is to have an option that would be quick sort. And then another one that would be sort option.
Advanced
so if you select quick sort, it will just
sort.
execute the sort alphabetically without any option, as you would do if you would do this and click go. Because at first sight, when you see this, you think that you have a lot of work to do just to get your content sorted. So I'll make probably a quick sort and I'll just add it.
Actually,
I have to note my own IDs because I forget them.
Yeah, but you know what? Now, beside the quick sort, maybe you can also add another button that says use last. So
use last sort. Yeah.
Right. So that means that every time if I usually sort by length, I do not want to use the quick sort and I do not want to go to the thing. I just use the last one that I used. And then
this would apply to the editor. It would not apply to the rule manager, because rule manager is something that is
advanced anyways.
Yeah, and you have to set different rules that you enable when you want to use them.
Right, exactly.
Which is something a little more advanced, as you said.
And I would actually just ask you, I assume, and I don't want to assume, that you could add several rules one after the other, and that means that each of them are gonna sequence, right?
Yeah. For example, it will be converted to uppercase and then enclosed in codes like this. So let me use it here. Copy, and if I paste it, it is uppercase and it is enclosed with these codes at the beginning and the end. There's an option also here for each line. So I will remove these two. So each line will be enclosed.
Okay.
Not the last one, because I have to use the last to include the last enter. So let's do it again here. So
there should be
yeah, and we have this one. So there's a little thing to tweak here.
Right. Quick thing is it possible for you to save for example, that sequence of rules into something that I would rename it like
in the future, In one of the next thing I have to do is to implement groups. So for example, if you have, let's take these two that are meaningful.
Right, exactly. Those
this
two.
one and this one here, you can drag and drop if you want to change the order. If it has sometimes it's important to do things in the right order.
Exactly.
And the plus button here and other buttons that I will add will save this as a group. So, and then the list of groups will be available on the left side here if you click on groups. So, and if you put and here groups, and you've seen that it's been disabled automatically. There's a timeout that will remove the active rule just in case you forgot that you have this rule, and you change the duration of the timeout. So any group or individual rule here will be executed in the order they appear.
That I added.
Here.
Okay, that's awesome. Yeah.
There's one rule that is do nothing. I really like that one. For testing, it's good. You want to test. If,
right. Yeah. You just.
There's another one, as you know, you often use message box for debugging. So this one here, what is it?
To remove it, right?
I like the. I will remove this one. So message box will simply take the content of the clipboard and put it in a clipboard.
Yeah.
But that's a kind of, and one thing I like is sometimes is to show the invisible characters. So you will see that there are spaces. If you have tabs, if you have enters.
Yep.
It's available only when you are in read only. So when you are in the
editor itself.
And when you view the content of the clipboard, as soon as you edit it, I remove these characters because they would be in the way when you save it.
I'm really curious about that. So I assume that this is an edit control and it has a message that you can send to it that shows that and disables it, right?
Yeah, that's in fact you change a value with GUI control set or something like that. Just don't remember exactly which one. But for invisible character, no, for word wrap it is special.
Yeah, for word wrap.
Word wrap is special because let's put a long sentence here. I have a hot string for this very long line here. So if I enable word wrap, it will be okay. The thing special with the edit control is that you cannot change the word wrap property in the control. When it's created, the word wrap is there forever.
Right.
So in order to switch between the two, you need to have two edit control, one on top of the other.
Oh, really?
And show and show only the one that you want to show, depending if you want to have this word wrap or not. And it's really well documented on the AutoHotkey forum. So that's sad because each change I have to do to my control here, if for example, if I say I want to have this font, when I switch to other, I have to replicate all the properties to the other one.
Oh my God, really?
In order to have these properties there. So that's a tricky thing about word wrap.
I would just go a little bit. It's a question that I have. I'm not sure about it, but it's an advanced question. So here's the thing. You know that all these controls, they accept Windows messages, right? So whenever you copy or paste or anything, those are messages that are being sent. I would assume that the word wrap is also a message that you can send. Instead of having two edit controls, can't you use the send message command or post message command to send the edit wrap command? And I would,
because the command that the fact is that the word wrap property is a one-time property.
It is a property. It's not a message.
It's not a message. It's a property. When you create the edit control, you will use the word wrap if you want it to be wrap, or you don't put it if you don't want to be wrap.
I would argue, since it's so well documented in the forum, that
someone else has tried that.
Has asked that, right? So I would assume that, right?
Yeah, I'm using send message. For example, if I enable a rule here, you see it will be disabled after 20 seconds. And this is a debugging tooltip here. And so what will happen is that, in fact, the program that is doing the rule is not this one. It's an hidden program that is running on the background. And when it will attain the end of the timeout, it will send a message to this program to remove this rule. So kind of things that very powerful to use send message to have various programs send information from one to the other.
It is actually really interesting that that particular message, well, that it is not a message, and it is actually kind of like a more of a setting that is only added when it's created. That's what I'm understanding by it, right?
Yeah, that's
which is, but let me just as a quick thing for those maybe interested in this type of things. I just went to look for the edit control messages, right? And I'm just looking at which things you can add or remove and so on. And this is why I am kind of like really surprised by it, because you see this set read only, it looks like an option, you know, like the word wrap is an option, changed, right? And the read only is also an option when you're creating the GUIing, but this one can be changed, right? And the password, for example, if you wanted to look like a password, is also a message that you can do.
Yeah, I would say that everything can be changed except wrap.
Wow, that is interesting. Word break. Hold on. Oh, but here is the thing. The set word. So you can actually set a word wrap function for it, but you cannot set the word wrap or not. So again, it is for me really, really interesting that you can get the function that does the word wrap for it, but not to
it will tell you if it is word wrap or not,
right?
But it will not change it.
It doesn't change it. Oh my God, that's awesome.
Yeah, I'm using a library from what's the name of this guy that did a very good library to work with the edit control. Bally, J-B-A-L-L-Y, and I'll show you, and I'll put the link to this. That's where I took my list of countries. So if you want to work with the edit control, you really will benefit from this library that has everything that you need to. Where are documentation screenshots here maybe? So it includes find and replace. It includes everything that is. You feel like controlling
a little
Notepad.
Editor, right? Exactly.
Yeah, and it's Notepad.
Editor.
Notepad is the edit control. Is using the edit control, so it's very similar to that. So there's a documentation. Now I'll put the link on the
yeah, that's a very interesting one. Just as a quick question, how many of us actually use the rich edit control? I know that kind of like the rich edit control supposedly is better than the edit control, but
yeah, but I can't.
I haven't seen anybody using it, right? You cannot afford that one, right?
Yeah. There's a license cost or what?
No, but
for rich people only. And I'll just.
So have you ever used the rich edit control, John?
It is on my to-do list to take a look at that and see. Of course, it's good because it allows to do bold and to do
right. It does a lot of things that the
bullet list and things like that. But it's a little more complex to implement, and the library is also covering the rich edit library. What is good with the rich edit is that you can have a spell checker.
Yeah, of course.
Something that I would really like to have in QAC. So that's something I will certainly look at. I have a quite a long list of to-dos and a roadmap of things for the future of QAC. Still at beta, the third beta release. So, but yeah, that's something good to take a look at. Maybe it offers more possibilities. Certainly, it will have some limitations of things that can be done with the edit control and not with the rich edit control. It's always like that. So that's what I changed. And the last thing I changed is in the case. If I don't know, I'll show you. Am I sharing? No, I'm not.
No.
So let's put some text here. Yeah, I have to edit first. And just for, yeah, so I'll put all this in uppercase. Of course, I didn't mention that if I select text, it will uppercase or change only this text. But if I select nothing, it will change everything. So let's change it to uppercase, not sort, change case. So one new addition of the last release is this sentence case. We'll put capital letter only at the beginning of sentences, so after a dot, or after an exclamation mark, or after a question mark, or at the beginning. It's not title. Title is every word is capital. Okay, I'll show you the difference.
Well, ironically, you need to capitalize the case.
Yeah, sentence is I have here at the beginning, I have here after a dot. Okay.
Yes. Okay. Yes.
If I do title, it will be
is each word,
every word.
Personally, I would demonstrate the things. Like, so lowercase, everything should be lower in the description of lowercase. Uppercase, everything is uppercase. Title case.
So here, so in parent, so each name would be kind of like an example of what you're referring to.
Oh, you would,
lowercase,
and then you might consider camel case.
Or reverse case. There's also reverse case.
You know what? Camel
is one of each. You alternate up and down, upper and lower.
But that's easy. That's a little bit complicated to implement, because how do you know which letter are you gonna camel case? Right, because for example,
what is camel case exactly?
So just put camel case in there, just put it together, just remove the space. So if you put camel case together, the C for case should be for the second C.
Okay.
Should be capital A's.
Okay.
Any other word. Yeah. Any other word. Yeah. Like
that, like for variable name, for example.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
So the problem with that one would be like, how do you know which one to?
Yeah, you would need a dictionary of what are the words that you want to capitalize.
Right.
Yeah, someone suggested have something similar to that, is to capitalize only nouns. Proper nouns, for example. Yeah. How I need a dictionary of the proper nouns you would want to have uppercase. But yes, and there's toggle case, which is also what if you just reverse.
Whatever you have.
What is up will be lower, and what is lower will be upper. Yeah. But camel case is a challenge.
Yep.
Maybe for we could do a AutoHotkey hackers weekend and give a challenge to to program something like that.
Well, that's the thing. So basically, again, with camel case in particular, and the one that you mentioned, like for example, nouns. There is no way to programmatically do that, because it has to identify a word.
Yeah.
So we have to do a dictionary, and basically, Joe, this one would be one that you could do with an object. So you grab the object, right? So you read a dictionary file. It doesn't matter how many words it has. It could contain 50,000 words. And now you use the haskey function to very, very quickly find out if that object has it. If it has it, then just camel case.
That's the fastest way to do that.
That would be, but that, as we were discussing in one of the videos that we were making about that, then you have to load the dictionary into an object first.
Yes, and you have to loop every word. So to check if this word has to be capitalized or not.
No. That was the point that we were doing. So after the dictionary is in an object, you don't have to loop through each word.
No. But in the content that you want to change to title case or to camel case.
All right. Yeah, that would.
Yeah. So if your clipboard contains 1 meg of text, it will be long, because I can show you doing this conversion on 1 meg of text, and it takes less than 1 second. It's very fast. Yeah. But sentence case is doing a loop. So this one is a little slower. Still
right. So those are the type of things that then we would have to consider whether that's the most efficient way of doing it.
But usually the clipboard does not contain gigs of text, so it's megs at most megs.
You
So-
never know. There's always that one person that actually tries to copy.
I don't know what is the limit of the size of the clipboard if there's
I
one.
think there is I think there is a limit. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really big.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
actually, that is actually one of those really good questions. What is the limit of a clipboard?
You Google that?
I'm doing it right now. Yeah.
And so just a few words about the quick access clipboard. I'm only processing text for now. I had good suggestions that it could also process images, but it's something for quick access clipboard version 2 or 3, because there's a lot of things to do just with text first. And there's rich text that I also want to, and the clipboard can contain various type of content. It can be text, but it could be Excel cells, can be image, can be various data types. So I also want to explore this to see how I could help converting these various types. So did you find the size of the clipboard?
Yeah, so it says that the Windows clipboard does not impose any size limits, but there is kind of like the clipboard itself allocates chunks of 2 gigabytes in size. So
2 gigabytes.
Each chunk is 2 gigabytes, but
of course, for images, it has to be. Yeah, for images, it has to be very big, or
Right, but in general, the amount of virtual memory your PC has, or the memory that your computer has.
If you're running with a 64-bit system, you will have the virtual memory available. Yeah.
So in that case, I think you can put whatever you want in the clipboard. You can grab the binary of a video, of a high definition video. You grab the binary and put it on the clipboard, and that's it is there. Yeah.
Well, thanks everyone. A lot of fun. Really interesting. Good level of all over the spectrum as far as what we covered. That was pretty cool. So thanks everyone.
See you next